So, yeah. So I'm going to tell you about how for over 15 years of my adult life, I have lived and been a part of a dysfunctional family. So I'm going to take you back to 2013 when I was about 20 years old. I got my first job. I worked at FedEx, and the reason why I started working at 20 and not at 18 was because the first 2 years of my life, I went to college. I dropped out. It is what it is. I just wasn't ready for school. I started working only part-time, but at least I was working. I was doing at least something, right? I was helping the family. The rest of my parents at the time, I was still living at home. And progressively, it kind of got, a little bit worse here and there. It wasn't exactly the best of times, but, it was fine. It was manageable. And during also this time, my whole life was just playing video games all day. And the only time I ever went outside or, decided to do anything that wasn't related to the computer was when I had to get food or when I went to work. So fast forward to 2016, my parents divorced, and this was the first time that I was shocked that it happened, but as the years kept moving forward, closer and closer to the divorce, it was kind of inevitable, because I kept seeing my parents argue back and forth constantly. And the job that I was working at FedEx was this graveyard shift. It was only part-time, but at the same time, it was very they're the kind of hours you work when I still personally think no one should be working these hours. It was from 3 a.m. to about 8 a.m., but it could go longer because it had to do with, I worked at an airport and it was package handling, but the thing is, a lot of the times we had to wait for the flights. So if the flights didn't come in, then we were essentially delayed with our work hours, and we couldn't really load the plane until the flight got there. So, like I said, it was part-time, but it sometimes, I remember times where it almost felt like I was working like 9 or 10 hours, because you just have to wait until the flight actually gets there. So, it's fine though. It's whatever, right? So I'm up at, pretty much all night. And when I'm coming back home, also, by the way, I didn't have a car. So I would come home by taking transportation from the BART, which is just like a train system. It's like public it's like a public train where you can get, it's like using the bus, but instead it's a train, right? You know, it is what it is. And then every single time I got home, all I would want to do is sleep. And, you know, I would get home usually at about like 9 or 10 a.m. So even during that time, I started realizing that my family was, you know, it wasn't just like my mom and my dad arguing. It was also my siblings that didn't have a job, and it was just kind of annoying. Those were like the early stages. From 2013 to 2016, I was just like, they already didn't really respect what was happening. Like, I was trying to sleep, and they kept saying like, oh, why? I don't even know. I remember they were trying to bother me to try to wake me up and stuff, and I just really hated it, and I couldn't sleep anymore. They just kept arguing, and yeah, I don't know. No respect, pretty much. And this is gonna matter later. But anyways, eventually I noticed 2014, 2015, you know, people just kept being loud and just talking. I will also mention that it's not like I just had like one or two brothers. I have 4 brothers that are younger than me, and then also 1 sister. So there was 6 of us. You know, the siblings, right? My siblings, including me, and then also my mom and dad. So there was 8 of us in total. And it was just a very chaotic lifestyle. So I don't know. It was very hard to get peace and quiet in general. I'll just say that. So 2016 comes along. My parents, you know, unfortunately divorce, and you know, at this point, I'm 23 years old. It doesn't really affect me as much as maybe my other siblings, right? But it still did shock me, because you have to understand, my parents at this point, they were together for 35 years. I mean, that's a long time. You know, like, I get that marriages and divorces, it's like a 50-50, you know, it's very, it happens all the time, right? But usually when I see it in the news or in the media, people don't even survive 5 years. So if you can make it past the first 5 years, and then especially 10 years, I mean, I feel like usually you know the other person well enough with all their flaws. You're not going to like everything about them. I get it, but I don't know. It's just that to me was a weird concept, that my parents were together for 35 years. And then they just, like, in my head, I just thought they were going to be together for the rest of their lives. I just couldn't fathom that they would ever divorce. And yeah, this was just a crazy realization. Now, again, in 2016, at the time when this happened, I was 23. So and I'm also the eldest of 6. So I don't think it really affected me as much, like on my mental, right? But it was still a little bit of a, maybe like 5 or 10% of my like mental. It did affect me a little bit, right? But yeah. But pretty much this was also the start of when things in the household, because my dad left, it was just my mom, me, my 4 younger brothers, and then my younger sister. So there was, now instead of 8, there was 7 of us, right? So, and at the time, I don't know why I didn't think of this, but at the time, because my dad left, there's going to be less money to support the bills and to pay enough money. So, I mean, obviously, you get like half and half after a marriage, but the other issue too was, it just obviously isn't the same anymore, It's just not the same anymore. So, like, it sucks when it happens, and it's just, especially someone like me, where you're in this lifestyle, this headspace, where my parents were together for so long. I just couldn't even imagine or fathom that they would ever get into a divorce. I mean, I know that people got in divorces all the time, but usually it was because they couldn't even make it 2 or 3 years, which to me is like nothing in the grand scheme of things, right? So this maybe it did affect me more than 5 or 10%. Maybe it actually affected me more. So anyways, so now it's 2017, and it's getting closer to 2018, and I've noticed that things are just getting worse and worse at home. And the arguing kind of kept going, even though it wasn't arguing between my mom and my dad anymore, but it was actually arguing with my siblings that would not help contribute to the household. And I couldn't really understand why this was happening, because to me, I was like thinking, what else would you want to do? Like, okay, let me try to draw the picture. So, and not to say that my life was good at all, or I was doing the best decision. Like, I was working part-time. It was the bare minimum. So I completely get that point of view. But, it was weird, because as it got worse and worse at the household, I actually kind of wanted to start moving out for myself, just because I couldn't bear the fact that even when I came back from work, I generally couldn't sleep because, I'm working all night. I couldn't sleep when I get home because there would always be constant arguing. And it could be literally about anything. Usually it was about something stupid, but, the arguing would just persist. It could be my mom arguing to my brothers. It could be my brothers arguing with my other brothers, with my sister. I mean, it could be just everything all at once, all the time. And I'm not saying I'm a saint or anything. I would also engage in these arguments. So it's kind of hard not to, because you're a part of that environment. And, it really is true. You are a product of your environment. So I just started noticing this, and I was getting angry and frustrated. Like, wait a minute. And it took me at least a year and a half to really figure out, okay, what I'm doing, this is not good. Like, I'm just getting mad. I'm arguing about literally nothing. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, wait a minute, I'm arguing with someone that isn't even contributing. They're not even helping. They're trying to tell me that, I'm not doing enough, which, again, I will take full accountability. I know I wasn't doing enough. I was only working part-time at this point, right? But they weren't doing anything. And we're not talking about siblings that are, like 10 years old. I don't expect them to work. But I'm talking about the older ones. So when I was 23 at the time, in 2016, my brother that was 2 years younger than me, he was good. Me and him were good in terms of, like, he worked. Again, it was only part-time, though. So, it's fine. I mean, it's not fine, but what I mean is he at least contributed, right? So he worked. He was 21. I had another brother who was 19. He did not want to work. And again, I understand that nobody wants to work, okay? Like, you think I want to work? I mean, if I didn't have to work, I wouldn't work. But now this was a different frame of mind back then. Now, in 2025, right now, I believe that working is actually better because you're going to better your life. You're independent. I mean, some things in life you really should work for. I understand that the whole, market and the whole inflation and nowadays is just insane. I'll get to that later, but I'm talking about, like, just the basics. You should want to work for yourself, at least just to get your own car, get your own place, or like, I don't know, you just need to live your own life. Like, just, like, I get that it's hard out there, but I don't know. To me, it's just a crazy concept. Like, my brothers who were like 19 and 20 were just, it's like they just gave up already when they haven't even had a job yet. They just, I don't know. I mean, at the same time, I don't know if I was better, because I wouldn't say I gave up, but I was playing video games all day. That was my whole life. It'd be like 18 hours a day. Sometimes I wouldn't even eat because I just didn't care. I just wasn't hungry. Yeah, so anyways, at this point, it's going over my head multiple times. I'm thinking, like, I need to get out. It's just getting worse and worse. The arguing, the blaming, the pointing the fingers, just I just couldn't do it anymore. So I was thinking about this in 2017. So now here's the thing about it. So the job that I was working at FedEx, I figured out that they had this peak season. It was called peak season, and during this time at the end of the year, you could work from November to December. It only lasted 2 months, but it was pretty much the peak season where the volume of packages is triple. So, it makes sense because, like, the end of the year, the holidays, right? And during this time, you could work as many hours as you wanted. So bear in mind, at this point, like I said from before, I was very highly addicted to video games. That's all I wanted to do. I just was tapped in 24/7, right? But because every single time I would come back home, could barely sleep, and then even when I do wake up at, I don't even remember what time. Let's see. If I went to bed, if I could get to bed by 10 a.m., I'd probably want to sleep for like 8 hours, or maybe like 6 because I couldn't really sleep. Maybe I'd wake up what would that be, like 4 p.m.? 10 to 4? No, that's only, 6 hours about. Maybe I'd wake up at 4 or 5 p.m., right? Let's just say. And then I would have work again the same day, or the next day it'd be at 3 in the morning. So I would generally sleep right when I got back, come back, try to sleep. Usually I couldn't sleep just because there's always arguing going on. Also, I'm going to also mention this, that the place where I lived at that time, the room I was in, we had all of my brothers, besides my sister, in one room. So there was, I think 2 bunk beds of 2 each, right? 4. And then there was one person sleeping on the floor. So 5 of us in total in that one room. And wow. It just I'm just telling you right now that it was really something. But it's okay. I mean, it's, that's life. It is what it is. Like, it wasn't really that bad when I could actually sleep, but because it was just, there's always like people in there at different times, like, yeah. There was this other case where like my friend would randomly come to my house, and he would try to wake me up and stuff. I mean, I don't know, man. It just felt like no one seemed to respect the time of me working and trying to help out the rest of the family. And it was just like, it's not even like it's my own I mean, I'm part of the family, but it's not like I have kids and then I have like a wife and you know what I mean? It's like, this is, I don't even know, man. It was like, I didn't really sign up for this, but I was okay with willing to help out. I'm totally fine with that. But at the same time, this was kind of where I was over and over in my head. I was just thinking like, I need to move out and just live for myself, because trying to do this is just not working out. And it's really hard to keep working and wanting to help other people around you when they don't respect your time, they don't respect you, and then you're just thinking to yourself like, what am I doing? Like, I'm just like wasting my time. And I know I was wasting my own time by playing video games all day. Like, I totally get that. But yeah, I mean, so I'm thinking about doing peak season back to FedEx, right? I want to work, and I'm thinking, I think for those 2 months, right, I am going to work more hours than I ever thought I could work. I mean, we're talking about maybe like 30 hours, 35 hours a week. So I was almost full-time, but not really, not really. Sometimes it was only like 28 hours, right? Because the flight would be on time, and I would just do my 4 hours and just bounce, that's it, right? 24 hours, whatever, right? 24 hours a week on the low end. That almost never happened, but I'm just trying to paint you the picture. Like, sometimes it was low hours a week. It was 5 days a week, but it was only 4 hours minimum, and it could have been like 6 or 7 hours, because like I said, the flight could have been delayed. So I thought, you know what? How am I going to be able to move out? Like, so I'm going to need to get a car. So by the way, at this point, it was 2018, the beginning of 2018. And I thought, well, no, actually it was more like the end of 2018. Like, it was like midway, and I was trying to figure out how to leave because I just couldn't take it anymore, right? And I thought, I need a car. this part was kind of funny because I remember I just went on my own to a car dealership and I thought, okay, how much can I get a car? Like, obviously I'm not going to buy a new car, but I'm going to try to figure out how to get a car, right? So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to pick like a used car and we'll just try to figure it out. And like every single time I tried to pick a car, it never really worked out because when the dealership, the person that worked there, right, they looked at my credit history, they looked at how much money I make, they pretty much said, well, based on your credit history, it's not high and you don't make enough money for us to give you a loan to buy a car, like a lease for a car, right? And I thought, are you kidding me? Like, I was thinking like, wait a minute. Am I really going to be stuck living in this life? And I thought, no. I'm going to figure out a way. Maybe I just have to get like a beater car, right? For like $2,000 and just bounce. Just let me get out of this mess, right? And I had a better idea. I thought, wait a minute. I could go back to FedEx. Once November rolls around, I could start working overtime like to the max. Because I thought, okay, I'm playing video games right now, but it's not really benefiting my life. Like, is it relaxing? Is it entertainment? Sure. But is it really helping my everyday life, my current situation? No, it was not. So, for the next 2 months, once November rolled around, we went to work. So I'm talking about 24 to about 35, maybe like 37 hours a week. To like the first week, I remember it was like 65 hours. We like almost doubled, right? Or like a little bit over. We like doubled our workload. And I'm not gonna lie, I was really burnt out. My feet were killing me because, you know, you work at an airport, you're working at package handling, you're doing all this stuff, your feet hurt, you're just dying, and you're just, it's hard work when it's physical labor. But it was fine because my mind was so set in stone where I will do whatever it takes to get out of this situation. And I really did go for it. So I think that after that first week, I think I had to just do my normal shift for the next week because I was just like, oh my God, this is hard. Like that's when I really started realizing how hard it is to make a little bit more money. But I wasn't going to stop. I was going to keep going for it. So what I did was so I went a week where I worked 65 hours, pretty much double my workload, right? Then the next week I went back to my normal part-time where I just worked like 25 to like 30 hours, right? Just the bare minimum. Then the next week, I pretty much was like, okay, we got to keep incrementally doing more work so that we could save up enough money to just flat out buy the car with straight cash. Because, by the way, before I left the dealership, I asked the guy, well, what if I just had cash? Could I just buy the car? And they're like, well, yeah, of course. If you have the cash, you could just buy it. So I thought, perfect. I don't even need a credit history. I could just buy the car. So then I'm going back and I'm thinking of this plan. Fast forward, now it's 2018, November. You can start working peak season. So this is when I start really just taking it seriously. Like, for the first time in my life, I'm actually working and trying to have a plan for myself. Not just be stuck in this virtual realm and just never leave, right? So then I thought, okay, so like I said, the first week we did 65 hours. The next week we went back to our 30 hours a week. But then the next week, the third week in, I mean, when you really put your mind to something, you can really get a lot done. And I saw it firsthand. I mean, I couldn't really believe it when it was happening, but I was just so motivated to get out of the place I was living at home, because it was a mess, just a bunch of dysfunction, just people didn't want to help themselves, they didn't want to work, and it was happening live in my own family, with my own family. It's just, and I thought, you know what? I do want to help them, but here's the thing. I realized that I had to help myself before I can help anyone else. So this was like the ultimate goal. I have to leave, be independent, and then like essentially come back, right? So I started working, like 70 hours a week. And then I went higher, 80 hours a week. And then even higher. Eventually I got to the point where I was working like, I think my best week ever, it was the last week in December. I was working like 120 hours in 1 week. And if you've ever worked that much, I mean, I was essentially a workaholic. It was insane. I mean, now I didn't really get paid that much. I was getting maybe, 2018, I think I was getting paid maybe like 22 an hour. Maybe that's good. I don't even know. But I was getting about 22, maybe 21 an hour. But with all the overtime and, all the extra pay, all the extra hours I was doing, I remember when I did that best week ever. So after taxes, nobody likes taxes, but they took a huge chunk out of my paycheck. Anyways, that's beside the point. I was just happy that I was getting paid something like really good, saving up for my car and just going all in. So I remember my best check I ever made. It was just so crazy. Like, oh my God. I think I still have the picture somewhere in my phone. I don't know. I'd have to look and try to find it, but I literally worked 100, I think it wasn't quite 120 hours, it was like 118 hours, and essentially I was doing like 16 to like 20 hours a day. And you might think, how is that possible? So essentially what I did was I would work as many hours as I can, like 2 or 3 shifts, and after like I think the 3rd or the 4th week, so I was going home, but I thought this is a waste of time because like I don't have enough time to sleep, because I was usually using public transportation. It took me about an hour or maybe an hour and a half to get back home. I mean, if you've ever used public transportation, you know how that is. And here's the thing. If I had a car, it would only take me like 20 minutes. It'd be really fast, right? So I just thought, why not I just stay there? So I had a friend that was also working a lot of hours with me, right? I think I was doing more than him, but we were doing about the same. If I did 80 hours in a week, he would do like 60 or something. So I would always try to do more, but my goal was to get a car. He already had a car. So I remember I asked him, hey, do you not mind if after work I could just rest in your car? And he actually didn't mind because he was doing the same thing. And I thought, okay, cool. And I remember him telling me, he's like, wait a minute. So he was one of my friends that I would talk to a lot online. I think back then it wasn't Discord, it was TeamSpeak. And he was just like shocked that he saw me working this amount of hours, because he couldn't believe it. He was like, I mean, again, I couldn't really believe it either, but my goal was so set in stone that I need to buy a car and to get out of this current situation I'm in, just to live a better life, just to figure out what I'm doing, because I don't even really know what I'm doing at this point, right? I mean, do we really know? I mean, even now, I still don't really know. But, I mean, I know a little bit better now, but I was really clueless back then. So, yeah, because, you know, he saw me online all the times, like, on the same game that we were playing online, but he just couldn't believe that I was giving up playing the computer to work this amount of hours. Like, he just, you know, he was like shocked. So anyways, I told him, do you mind if I could use your car, just sleep in it after work, because I don't want to have to go home, come back, because essentially it would be like 2 hours wasted where I could have slept. So I was actually maximizing my time on how many hours I could work and how much sleep I could get, in order for me to you know, get the most amount of money in these 2 months period of time, right? So I would just sleep in the car, rest for maybe, like, I essentially could sleep a little bit longer. So if I worked like 16 hours, then I could rest for like, let's say almost 6 hours, like 5.5 hours, and then I can get back and then start working again. And, you know, I'm literally right there. And, you know, even if it was cold in the car, because, you know, I'm sleeping like at night or something, it didn't really affect me. It's kind of weird, but I remember it was kind of cold, and it was like kind of annoying. Like, there was things that would probably be irritating, but I'm trying to tell you that back then, my whole goal was just to get out of the mess I was in, that nothing else mattered. And it's actually kind of a crazy concept, but I really just wanted to get out of it. And when the rubber meets the road, I just full sended it, and I just did it. So I did that for about 2 months, just sleeping 5 hours. I mean, sometimes I sleep like 4 hours. I mean, and I remember also that job, it was a very, I don't know if all jobs have this, but if you work 7 days in a row, then the 7th day you get double time. So you get double pay. So if I was making $22 an hour, on that 7th day, I would get $42 an hour, or $44 an hour for the first starting hour. So generally, I think how most people think of overtime is after you work 8 hours, you get overtime pay. So on your 9th hour, you're getting overtime. But no, in this case, because I already worked 6 days in a row, then the 7th day, I could get double time pay in the same day on the first hour. And it was just like, this is how I maximized it. So I remember working on the 7th day, not every week, but I remember there was a couple weeks, maybe like 2 or 3 weeks, right, where I would just work all day. And that might sound like, how is that legal? But I'm telling you, it happened. It was insane. Like, I just thought, well, if I work 24 hours, I mean, I'm not technically like working 24 hours, because, you know, I still have to have lunch. I still have to have like, what's it called? Like every 4 hours, you get a 30-minute lunch. And then, what is it called? Like, because I worked at an airport, you're not essentially working like nonstop, right? Because like you can only work as much as there is a workload there. If there's packages coming off of a plane, then you could work. But if you do all the work and you're just waiting for a flight to come, let's say it's delayed or there's just not enough flights at the time, you're essentially on standby for like, I mean, it wouldn't be that long, maybe like 2 hours or maybe like an hour, right? You're on standby and you're still getting paid though, because that's part of the job. Like the job is very kind of like random. Like you could, sometimes all the flights could coming right away, they're on time, and that day you're just working nonstop. So that's why I said some days were like 16 hours, but other days when I was planning to do 16 hours, they were delayed. So it actually ended up being like 22 hours or like 20 hours. You know what I'm saying? So like, this is what I'm talking about. So but don't get me wrong. Now this might sound weird, but I actually wanted to work and be consistent and move around doing something rather than just stand there on standby. Because, you know, when you're working so many hours, let's say it's hour 18, you're still working, but you have to wait 2 hours for the flight to come in. I'm gonna fall asleep and probably take a nap and want to go off the clock because I'm just so tired that now I have to wait. So like, I didn't actually want to just chill. So you might think, oh, well, you're not really working for those hours. No, I actually didn't like that. I would rather just keep working, because if I kept working and I was a busybody, then, you know, essentially I don't have to worry about thinking of like, oh, I'm going to fall asleep or like take a nap because I'm so busy, you know? And anyone that's ever worked a job where you have to just stand still and wait, trust me, it's not fun. It might sound like it's easy, and it is easy, but after a while, I would rather work a job where I'm busy than to just stand there. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. Maybe other people like that, but I cannot stand that. I'd rather just give me a task and I will do it. Don't tell me to like wait in front of like a office like counter and I have to wait for people to come. It's just, I don't know. Anyways, so back to when I did the last week, it was in December, like Christmas week. That was the craziest week of the entire year. So whatever that was, like December 20th to like 25th, even after Christmas, I remember it being so insanely busy. So, I remember that week. Oh my God, that was crazy. So just to give you a little like stats, number kind of thing, is in a week, there's 168 hours in a week. And I was essentially working 118 hours in the 168. I mean, that's insane. So that means only, what is that? Only like 50 hours were me like resting / not working. I mean, that's like not that much in 7 days. I mean, maybe it is. No, but I'm telling you, when you work that many hours, that's a lot. So, man, that's crazy to think about. But yeah, like I said, I put my mind to it and I was so focused and ready to just get to the next level, just to get my car and just to get out of that mess, living at home, that I believe that paycheck, it was $3,300 in a week. Now, bear in mind, this is before taxes. After taxes, they took $700 out. I could not believe it. $700. And then I still got like $2,500. I mean, that is absurd still. I will not lie. $2,500 in 1 week of work, that's a lot of money. And this was back in 2018. I think even nowadays, that's still a lot of money, right? That's insane. I mean, I don't make that much now every week. That's crazy. But again, I was working. This was my best week ever. I worked 118 hours in 1 week. I mean, I don't know if I'm ever going to beat that again. That's just crazy level of work, right? So fast forward, I'm going to the car dealership. I go back there. Actually, let me say this. So within those 2 months, I probably accumulated about, let's see, 2,500 was my best week. But I remember when I did like 65 hours, like the first week I worked, that was maybe like, I don't know, maybe like $1,000 or maybe not even. It was probably like $800, like, which could still be good, back then, right? But I don't know, because I wasn't paying attention to that paycheck, right? But pretty much if I hit 100 hours in a week, I was getting close to $2,000 after taxes. Not exactly. It would be like 1,800, maybe 1,900, right? Which is still really good. But again, I'm working 100 plus hours a week. I mean, that's more than double full-time. Double full-time for most people is 80 hours. So imagine that plus another 20 hours. So it's not like I'm just like working and I'm chilling, right? All I'm doing is I mean, pretty much I'm not even going home for a whole month and a half, because it was only the first 2 weeks where I went home. After that, the next 6 weeks I didn't really go home. I mean I did, I think once or twice I did go back, just because it was like really hurting or something and I had to like heal. There were some days where I would like sleep 12 hours, so I'm not saying I never went back home, but for the most part, I was sleeping in my friend's car, and I was just trying to maximize the work hours. So yeah, I went to the car dealership. Oh yeah, sorry, ADHD, my bad. So I made, in those 2 months, I probably made like, let's see, how much would that be? Like 2 times 4, 8K, plus like I made a little bit less the first month. I never really calculated how much I made, but it was definitely over 10 grand. It was probably, let's just ballpark like maybe 12 grand in 2 months. I mean, that's insane, right? 12 grand in 2 months. I mean, people probably, that sounds like drug money, but I swear to God I wasn't doing that. No way. This was just working hard at a job. I mean, they probably still have it at FedEx or UPS, any kind of like postal, like any kind of factory job that does package handling. Amazon Prime, they probably do it there. Not Amazon Prime, sorry, I meant Amazon. They probably have it where it's like super busy during the holidays and you could do the all hands on deck thing. So like, yeah. I mean, state to state it could change, but where I worked at in California, it was like that. So anyways, I go to the car dealership. I got the cash. I remember it was a silver Toyota 2013. It had 30,000 miles on it. It was previously owned, I think, by one, maybe 2 other owners. It was like an older couple, very friendly. It was funny because I remember I talked with them on the phone or something like that. I don't remember why I talked to them, but they like called me or something and they said, yeah, by the way, there's nothing wrong with the car. It has 30,000 miles on it. It's a 2013. I mean, and this was in 2018, by the way. So like, that's like nothing. 30,000 miles. within 5 years, I mean, that's really nothing. So, from when the car was new. So I bought it in 2018. I just flat out bought it. It was pretty cool because, I didn't have any credit. I wasn't making enough money on my checks. But because I had the cash, I think the car was 12 grand. It was a pretty good deal, to be honest. It was like 12 or 13 grand, somewhere around there, for a 30,000 miles Toyota Corolla silver, the Toyota Corolla Sports car. It had a little spoiler on the back. And I was like, yo, this is my first car. It's not new, but it looks pretty good. I'm going to take it. And I paid it with cash. And I remember the guy was like, thank you. I shook his hand. Thank you very much. Went back home. I felt, you know what? This is great. Guess what happened when I came back home? You probably guessed it. Arguing. It's almost as if I never left. It's just... Anyways, so now it's, it's starting the early year in 2019. I'm thinking, okay, this is great. Cool. Now, I'm getting ready. So at this point, also before this even happened, before it became 2019, like 6 months in to 2018, before I even did all this, I remember telling my mom and telling my other brothers, my siblings, right, if you guys don't help out, I'm just gonna have to go. And I think they didn't really believe me, because I don't know, they just thought like, oh, it's just a joke. Like I said, they wouldn't really respect me. They just thought I was a joke, which I think I was for some things, like whatever. It is what it is. Like I was working part-time. I was doing the bare minimum. Still better than nothing, but not enough. I get it. But I just was like, I gotta move on. I gotta live my life, It's whatever. So eventually they saw me packing up, getting my things, getting ready to go. I eventually told my mom, I'm sorry, but I gotta live my own life. I gotta be independent. Now, I know I'm a late bloomer. At this point in 2019, I am 26. So you might think, well, wow, you're 26 and you're just moving out now? I know, but I mean, I don't know why I didn't have it in me to leave earlier, but I just didn't. It is what it is. I mean, I don't know. But over the years from when I started working at 20 to being 26, I was like, I'm ready to go. And I told my mom, yeah, I'm going to go. My siblings, I think even at that point, still didn't really believe it. They probably just thought, oh, we'll see you tomorrow or something. And I was like, no, I'm not coming back. Like, what? Anyways, fast forward, it's about February 2019, and I already had prospects of where to go, move out. I moved about, I think it was an hour and a half away from where I was currently living. And mainly just because instead of having that part-time job that I had at FedEx, I still stayed with FedEx, but I became a courier. And what that means is now I'm actually driving trucks and delivering packages, to residential places like houses, apartments, right? And then also delivering to businesses. So that was a full-time gig because I already worked at FedEx for 6 years. Even though it was only part-time, I could transfer to a full-time position. And I thought, damn, at first when I did it, I thought I really didn't want to do it because I didn't want to have to work full-time. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I really was kind of afraid to work full-time. I really thought, oh my God, I'm going to give up all my freedoms, and I'm not going to be able to play as many video games. I won't be able to have as much fun, and it's just going to suck overall. But because living at home and the constant arguing all the time was so bad and people just didn't want to work and help out, I just had to leave. And, you know, the first 3 months of me moving out on my own, this was 2019 in February, I'm not going to lie, it was scary as shit. Because for the first time in my life, and again, I know I'm 26 at the time, but for me, this was like a crazy leap of faith forward. And I was truly independent. And I thought, damn, it's really up to me to pay all the bills. And even though it was scary, at the same time, it was also very liberating. Like this weight over my shoulder was just liberated. It was just great. And it was scary for the first 3 months. But after that, I just remember once I got over that 3-month hump, and it's the 4th month now, everything just seemed like I was so much more at peace. And, you know, for once I could finally, like, I would work, you know, it was more than 8 hours a day, by the way, because I would wake up at 5 in the morning. I would start work at 6 a.m. And I wouldn't get back until about 6 p.m. because you're just driving all day. You had to make sure you come back to the facility by 5 p.m. because that's when the flights leave. And I didn't work for an airport at that time, but it was essentially like the stop before. So this was the facility, and then there would be trucks that would be sent out. Like, I wouldn't do the job, but other people would send out the trucks to go that would go to an airport, and then the airport would eventually take the packages. So it was like just pretty much like one more stop before the place I used to work, which was actually directly at the airport. So this was like, you know, another facility. So, and it wasn't the same city. Like I said, I was about an hour and 30 minutes away from where I used to live at. So it was like a completely new city. I didn't know anybody in the city. And, you know, it was scary at first, the first 3 months, but I'm not going to lie. After those 3 months were up and it was the 4th month in, you know, I was working 12-hour days, but it was just so crazy because it really changed my whole mindset of like, wait a minute. So I'm working full time. I'm working clearly way more hours than I used to work. But nobody is yelling at me. When I get home, it's peaceful. When I have my own car, so I have my own freedoms. I could literally do things. If I wanted to just go for a hike or a walk, I could, right? I didn't have to wait for anybody. I didn't have to ask, could I get a ride? Because, you know, even though I didn't have a car back then, I still sometimes asked my mom if I could use a car just to, like, drop me off, or they could drop me off, right? But no, it was very liberating. And I just thought, man, this is why I've been missing out on. And the reason why I'm trying to tell you all this stuff is because, you know, I lived in the same household as all my other brothers. And I just couldn't understand why they didn't want to do their own live their own life of trying to be independent and just trying to move forward. I really just couldn't understand it. It was a weird concept to me. Like, maybe they were going to do it later. And I was like, okay, well, it took me until I was 26. So maybe they're going to do it when they're 26, because, I'm the oldest. I was the oldest. I'm still the oldest now. And I just thought, all right, I'll just let them do it, I'll just let them, things take time and everybody's at a different level and, it is what it is. So I thought, okay, fine. Maybe it's just not meant to be yet, right? And for about, let's see. So from 2019 to about 2021, I'm living probably the best 3 years of my life. I mean, it was great. I still got into contact with my mom, and a couple of my brothers that were working. I did keep in contact with them. Maybe we'd hang out like once or two times a year, but for the most part, I didn't really. It wasn't because I wasn't living with them and I wasn't around them 24/7. I mean, I really had my own life. I was doing my own things, and I was actually playing less video games because I just wanted to go out more and live life. Like, I started going on hikes, and I started just enjoying the outdoors again, and I think I had to, like, really heal from all that trauma that I had, just dealing with all that stress and the arguing, and just, I understand family's important, but if you're living you're living in a dysfunctional family, and it wasn't like all of my family was dysfunctional. It was mainly just two of my siblings, three of my siblings out of the six. So about half, right? But the reason why I said kind of three is because, like, one of them, they kind of got their shit together eventually, but it just took a little bit longer, right? And yeah, and I mean, same thing with me too, right? I finally got my shit together after I was 26, so that was definitely a late bloomer. I know plenty of people that they didn't even wait till they were 18. They left at 16, so I get it. But that was just my life. So, I mean, so the thing is, and I know that in 2020, right, like in March, that was like C19, like that was crazy. But even though that was happening, it didn't really affect me as much because I kind of just didn't mind not talking to people because I grew up with 5 other siblings in the same house. And, I don't think it's good to be an only child, but at the same time, when I was an adult, I really liked it. And even to this day, I still kind of like it. Like, don't get me wrong, I like going out and hanging out with friends and we could have fun and stuff, but I think I really like to just hang out by myself. I think because I just grew up in that very chaotic lifestyle. Like, it was just constantly yelling and fighting and just arguing. So, like, it felt nice to just have some peace and quiet. And I really do love my peace and quiet. And I don't even feel lonely. It's not like I'm lonely. I actually like it. It's a very liberating and peaceful. So, fast forward to 2021. This is when I'm doing a lot better with my life. I feel like I've healed a lot. And I'm living on my own. And it was really great. And then I thought, you know what? I'm going to change my job. And for about, what is that? Since 2020 to 2021, I was working at FedEx. Yeah, that's a long time. I mean, 11 years. I mean, there were a couple jobs in between where I worked other jobs. It wasn't quite just FedEx, because I worked at FedEx for 8 years, but those were like the permanent jobs. And then in between that, I did, like, for example, I tried other jobs. Like I remember in 2020, I was like doing I tried being a salesman and tried to like sell solar. I didn't like it. So I quickly went back to FedEx. So when I say I worked at FedEx for 11 years, I mean, it's kind of like on and off a little bit. The last 3 years, so from when I finally moved out on my own, so from 2019 to 2019 to 2020, I worked a full year. I worked a full year like that, and it was like cool. And then 2021, I kind of like took a little bit of a break of FedEx. Tried being a salesman for a little bit, didn't like it. Went back to FedEx. So I tried new things now, because I was like, I feel like I could do something else. I don't want to just be stuck in the same job my whole life. So 2021 was when I wanted to change jobs. And eventually I did. And at this point I was still independent, right? And it was like great. It was like cool. I actually got a job working at a casino, and that was like a crazy leap of faith. So I haven't really talked about me talking to my dad and all ever since the divorce in 2016, but I did reach out to him, and I was just wondering what he was doing. And he told me that, oh yeah, so I'm actually working at a casino now, and he was a security officer there. And I thought, that's crazy. And I thought, maybe I'll try it. I tried to apply for it. I unfortunately did not become a security officer. It's okay though. I didn't do that job, but I actually was a janitor at the job for about 6 months. Just got my foot in the door. I'm not better than anybody for any job. Like, I'll do whatever job I need to do. Like, you got to understand, once I was free from my household that I grew up in, I was like, as long as I work a job, I really don't care what I do. As long as I'm independent and I'm living and I get peace and quiet when I'm at home, I will do any job. So I was a janitor for like 6 months, working at a casino, and it wasn't really that bad. It's not as bad as maybe you might think it would be, but it's because I was busy. There's constantly work to be done. I mean, it didn't really affect me. I don't know. I thought it was fine. I was like, okay, I don't really, I mean, it's really just a job, right? Like, who cares? Like, I don't know. So I did that. I always wanted to like just try new things too. It's not like I liked being a janitor, but it didn't really matter. It was still a job. It still paid the bills. It was fine. The cool thing was that it was new, right? So I'm always out here. I feel like when you're young, you should do that. You should try different jobs, and who cares? It's like, I don't know. Don't worry about if it's your dream job. Like, at this point, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do. And it doesn't really matter. Just, if you're independent, living for yourself, you're going to learn a lot of things. You're going to learn a lot of life lessons. Like, trust me, it's going to happen. And it's fine, I did that job for about 6 months. Then eventually a friend of mine, he said, hey, why don't you try to do valet? And I thought, valet. I mean, I've never done that before, but I guess I'll try it. So this was also the other thing about my mind. It was very open to try new things instead of just being stuck. So you have to understand, I was essentially stuck working in the same job for 8 years. Now, it wasn't until the end of it where I started like, okay, I'm going to try something else, or I'm going to try this job, or I'm going to try that, right? There were a couple of odd jobs here and there where I only was there for like 3 months or like 5 months because I just tried it, didn't really like it. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, I still always made sure I paid the bills, and I made sure that I still could do it, right? Eventually I got the valet job. That was cool. I'm still currently working as a valet attendant. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty chill job. I mean, here's the thing about working at FedEx for that long, though, that nothing is hard anymore. Like, obviously, you still got to work. I mean, life can still be hard. There's going to be ups and downs. I get that. But in terms of, like, that job, physical labor jobs are probably the hardest jobs out there. So, and I'm not saying FedEx was, like, the hardest job. No, definitely not. Like, I feel like a construction worker, you're doing way more work. Or, like, oil rigs, I mean, kudos to y'all, because that looks hard as hell. I mean, there's plenty of other hard jobs out there. I'm just saying, from my point of view, when I worked at FedEx, now working at other jobs, I mean, it's like not even hard. So it definitely gave me a good lesson in life of like, wow, okay, I could really do something with this. So I finally get the job, and it's midway in 2021. I'm working at the casino. 6 months later, after a janitor, I become a valet attendant. It's like at the end of the year of 2021, 2022 rolls around, and I'm thinking, you know what? I'm going to check on my mom now. And at this point, she was still living at home, like in the same spot where she was living at, right? So I thought, you know what? Family still matters, and I want to help them out. Because at this point in 2022, I am doing better than anyone else in my family. So I thought, I'm going to go and try to help them. So I go back to my mom, and I see my siblings there. Surprisingly, they weren't arguing. That was like really a shocker to me. I think my mom was shocked at how I looked, and that, you know, she was, I guess, happy for me, which I was happy for her too. I mean, that she looked like she was doing better. And then, you know, it was a lot of work, but I had to like pretty much move all the stuff out of the house. I think I called like some company to like help clean up the house and like move the stuff. It was a big kind of like thing, but I think it took like a week or so, right, to move. And eventually I got her to work at the casino. And she was doing a lot better for the first year. So from 2022 to 2023, she was working. I mean, she was already working at the before. She used to work at like a Walmart, and then eventually she moved to work at this job at the casino. And I was like, yeah, you know, trying to help out my family. I feel like that this is what you should do, right? If you're doing good in life, you should help your family, in my opinion. So that's what I did. Eventually my mom moved over there. Again, she was living in the same city as me, but it wasn't like with me, if that makes sense, right? So like I was maybe like 10 minutes away from where she lived, right? And at the end of 2022, so like the beginning of 2023, something insane happened. My one of the siblings, so out of the two siblings that haven't worked since they were in their 20s, or since they were 18, I guess, right? Because like the reason why I didn't work when I was 18 is because I went to college for 2 years, and I didn't graduate, but I at least did something. It was either you go to school, further education, or you start working. So those are the two options. I chose school. Eventually didn't work out, but then I started working at 20. So from 18, these two siblings didn't work this whole time. It's 2023. So that means one of them hasn't worked. Oh my goodness. Yeah. It's a long time. I mean, I think they did work. I mean, they did work like part-time for maybe like kind of like what I was doing in a way when I was trying to like get a different job after FedEx. Like they worked for 3 months, quit, then like another year passes, they would work another 3 months, quit. It was like that. It was like they technically did work, but it was never consistent enough to make enough money to actually like help to help the household, right? So that was the problem. And so pretty much it's been over a decade for one of them that hasn't really worked. But then the other one didn't work in like 7 years, which is still a long time. Obviously, this is like bad and this is a long time. So the one that's finally working at the casino, I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. He's actually going to work at the casino. No way. This is insane. And I thought, holy crap. So he got with a couple of his coworkers and said, hey, can I start living with you guys? It was like an apartment complex somewhere. He actually moved out and started living his own life for a whole year. I was like, thank God. Maybe like the effect finally stuck with them and they finally were just moving on. And I was like, oh my God, this is so great. This is so great. And fast forward to the end of 2023, and unfortunately, he got fired. And then he had to move back in with my mom and the other sibling that was still there, that still wasn't working. And yeah, it just wasn't good. So I mean, and then I thought, you know what? Like, people get fired all the time. It's fine. Like, I thought this was just like a phase. It's okay. I still had high hopes, and I was still rooting for him. And also, I was trying to help even my other brother. Tried to help my mom with more stuff. But eventually, fast forward now to 2025. It's the end of the year now. In November, and that one brother that did eventually work for a year, by the way, he was 25 at the time. Now it's about 2 years later, he's 27. So he finally worked a full year at 25 to 26, and then he's 27, almost 28 now. And then the other sibling that's 30 years old still has not worked for over a decade. And like I said, he and the other brother did work for like 3 months and then quit for like 9 months and then work another 3 months and then quit for 9 months. Like, it was kind of like that for like 2 or 3 years, and then he just, I don't know, after like 6 or 7 years, eventually he just stopped working at all. Like, he didn't even try to apply. And fast forward to now, it's November 2025, and he just has not worked. He's 30 years old. This whole time, my mom has been supporting both of them. And I don't know. I just feel like that's wrong. Like, my mom should not have to be. If anything, we as her kids should be supporting and helping her. I mean, it just boggles my mind that you could be 30 years old and 27 and just not want to work for yourself. It just seems absurd to me. Like, I don't understand. It's like they gave up on life already when you haven't even really tried anything. Like, it's different if you've at least tried and you just feel like there's no hope. I mean, I get it with inflation and high costs. I mean, groceries cost an arm and a leg. Like, I totally get that perspective, but you gotta at least try. I mean, I just can't. And by the way, during this whole time while I'm talking about my story and how I grew up and how I lived my life, the reason why this really took a toll on me, and eventually, like, I was good when I first moved out in 2019, and I was 26 years old. So from 26 to 29, it was 2022, I was pretty much the best time of my life. I mean, I'm doing okay now, but psychologically, I think I really got messed up again, because it really puts a toll on me, because you have to understand, so my mom is very codependent during this whole time, and I kept trying to tell her that, you know, if you know, my two siblings that refuse to work pretty much like permanently or try to really help out, I told her that she needs to do what's called tough love and kick them out as an ultimatum if they don't work, because you being there and supporting them, it's not gonna help them. And maybe it's just because I don't have kids of myself, that like, oh well, you would never do that if you had kids. Like, you can't just kick out you know, your kids. Like, where are they gonna be? Like, just homeless on the street? And I'm like, and I always told her that no, they wouldn't be homeless. I mean, I don't know 100%, but I feel like they would figure it out, just like me. I mean, did I know what I was gonna do? No, I was scared shitless for the first 3 months. I didn't know, but I knew that I didn't want to be living like that anymore. So I was just trying to figure it out, and I feel like they would have done the same thing. I mean, so my mom was pretty much the golden parachute for my two siblings that just refused to work. And for the last, I guess 4 years, almost 5 years now, because in 2021, when I first got a different job, that's when I first kind of reached out to try to help out my family, right? The ones that needed help, because I didn't really talk about this that much, but my brother, who was 2 years younger than me, he lived out somewhere. He lived out living his own life, but then the two brothers in between, they were kind of the ones that were very dysfunctional. They just didn't want to help out. I don't know. I mean, maybe they're depressed. I mean, I think I was depressed when I was only working part-time and I was, you know, playing video games all day. I was probably depressed. But like, why was I depressed? Because I didn't do anything. Like, of course my life is gonna suck if I'm not gonna do anything. I mean, come on. You have to at least try and pick a path, literally pick anything and just try something. And I feel like 9 out of 10 times you're gonna figure it out. You're gonna do better. It's just, but just to give up and not even try, I mean, it just, I don't know. Maybe it's just I don't have that kind of concept. I don't have that kind of thought process. So I realized that after 5 years of trying to help my family, as much as I want to keep helping them, I really don't think I can. And I really think they need professional help. And it really sucks because partly I kind of feel like I wasted my time trying to help them because what I've realized, not just these past 5 years, but also just even before when I was still trying to help myself, I was still kind of trying to help them also get a job and trying to help them work and, but I just realized now that I'm 35, in 2025, I just realized that you can't help someone if they don't want to help themselves. And it really just is the truth. I mean, I don't... Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I realize that I still deep down inside, I want to help people, but I realize that I'm only going to give the effort to help someone if they're going to at least meet me halfway. Like, if you don't even meet me halfway, it's just too much work on my own. Like, if I have a team and there's like a company, like an organization that can help people do that, that is amazing. And that's actually the goal, right? That would be a perfect goal, right? But doing it on my own is just too big of a task. And, I don't know if this is really going to matter, or maybe I'm just the only one living like this. I mean, I have no idea. Probably not, but I don't know. And I've just been thinking about this probably for about the last 3 months. And I've kind of just been losing my mind. And I just, even though, maybe nobody sees this, I don't really care at this point. I mean, even if just one person sees it, then that's fine. The thing is, I do feel a little bit better just getting it off my chest. I feel a little liberated, just the fact that I talked about it. And even if I'm just talking to the void and nobody's listening, I still feel a little better. But I just felt like I really had to just say something. And yeah, I mean, I do believe that there's going to be better times in the future, but I just had to, this is what I had to just say as of now. So, that's pretty much it. And yeah.